Well,
All
good
right, so
afternoon, everybody, or morning, depending upon where you are. This is Mark Lauritsen again. I'm here with Bart, Earl, and Miranda and Raphael. Miranda, I guess you've already done it, but maybe since you weren't here last week, tell the folks who you are and what's your role on this in this whole enterprise.
Thank you, Mark. Again, I'm Miranda Migueli. I'm the Partnerships Manager at Pro Bono Net, and I work mostly on the LawHelp Interactive project. And I'm excited to be here today. Along with Claudia, I'm here to support you for the training, but also as you develop forms and continue post-training. My background is I graduated law school, started at the public defender's office in New York, and transitioned to my role here, and really excited about being able to work with you all who are doing really amazing things with technology and access to justice throughout the country. So feel free to call me or email me if anything can be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda. Also, if there's anyone who's joining us today who was not here last week or didn't get a chance to introduce yourselves, please make yourself known. Speak up or raise your hand. I see a number of names of folks we've seen before, but do we have somebody new?
Good afternoon. I'm new. I'm attorney Paige Martineau from North Penn Legal Services. I wasn't able to view it last week, but I think I've done a decent job catching up. I'm here at our Sunbury, Pennsylvania office. Excellent. Welcome, Paige. And maybe you briefly describe what do you plan to do with Hot Docs or A2J? Well, we're still developing that. I'm a new staff attorney here, but I've done some work with Word templates. We have a Hot Docs guru, Sheila Fisher, who's with our organization, but I think she's looking to pass on the reins to someone else. So myself and probably one other staff attorney will be trying to learn and take her place for document development for pleadings and letters and things like that. Excellent. I see a note from Aldo Montillo who says she has a computer but no mic on the computer, so we can't hear her, but welcome Aldo. Anyone else who's here who didn't have a chance to let the rest of us hear your voice on these calls? These are meant to be very informal weekly opportunities to share notes, compare ideas about progress in the course. In a few minutes, we're going to get into just what happened this past week, but I wanted to give folks a last chance or another chance to say hello. And you can always raise questions in the background, as you know, just by putting them into the chat or into the question pane. And Miranda or Bart or I will try to respond. But without further ado, let me just review where we are. This is the training schedule that's available. Of course, your main base of operations for this course is this section of folders in the LawHelp Interactive Resource Center. These will give you the materials you need for each week. We're now in group call number 2, September 4th. And in this module on the Resource Center, you'll find the homework for the week going forward, which we'll look at in a moment, and the video for the class that corresponds to that homework, which you should watch first, that Bart Earl has done. And so we are now at this row in the table. By now, you should have watched the recording for the first class, which I did in 2 parts, done the homework for the first week, which we gave you an instruction sheet for, and be ready today to go through that homework, ask any questions or comments about your experience. We try to have a volunteer or 2 each week show what they did, just to give us all a view into how different people do things and to raise any questions you may have about it. Before I do that, let me just see, does anyone have any other logistical questions about how the course works, or if you run into any troubles trying to stay up with us and with the homework? Again, feel free to jump at any time with such commentary or questions.
Well, let me see, Aaron Varner, you're in the group, you're in the call. I think you're willing to show what you've done. You're presently self-muted. Are you willing to be made presenter for a second and just have us look over your shoulder to show the state of your work in the week 1? Okay, you're muted by the presenter. Now you're unmuted. Voila.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
If that's false. We hear you.
Okay, great.
And now you're given the option to present as well, Aaron. So take us through what you've been doing and how it worked.
Okay. Let's see. Here, can you see my screen? Never sure which of these two screens shows up.
Well, we're seeing the Montana Divorce Petition in your library.
Okay. How about
there's the template.
Now. Should be seeing the Word doc template.
We're seeing it. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I basically just went through the instructions and watched the video. I've done a lot of work with hot docs, doing PDFs and static forms. I've never used it to do anything dynamic, so I'm learning a lot already. So yeah, I'll just assemble it. It worked a second ago.
Why would that be, right?
Yeah.
What would cause that to happen? I guess is one question, right?
Good question. Yeah.
Anybody got a theory? I'll quickly tell you the answer, which I think is if you have anything highlighted in your template when you do a test assemble, hot docs will just assemble the thing you have highlighted. And so if you happen to have highlighted like the word marriage there's no hot docs content in it.
Gotcha. All right.
And
so
therefore there's no interview to show. Well, now we're finding an error.
I've just got it to work. It was just fine 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
But that's the way it is sometimes, right?
No, exactly. No, maybe that when we were doing something, we introduced some character or something into your template that caused it to misbehave. Bart, if your eyes are better than mine in spotting it, please jump in.
Okay.
What's the nature of the error here? By the way, again, take your time because this is actually instructive to people, right? These are the kind of things everybody runs into when you're learning and trying and experimenting. You got an error. What did the error say when you do a test assemble?
Found the dot command when expecting a format example.
Okay.
So it's giving you a location.
Sorry?
Yeah.
It's giving you a location. Field 20, position 24.
What exactly does that mean in this context?
Well, that's each set of chevrons is a field. So it's the 20th field, position 4. And when you tell it to take you to that position, it should do it. I didn't quite see what happened, but it's that. I would not go by that. If you go to at the very top on the hot docs ribbon, on the right-hand side, top right-hand corner, you'll see go to field.
Okay.
And then put in 20 and okay.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And where's the cursor?
Right. Petitioner city TE. Yeah, I don't know why that would be an error, but try this and see what happens. That'll turn into a comment, right? So it won't.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can do that. I don't think you can. But, you know what to do is just select that one field and do a test assemble.
Okay.
And let's see if it's really that.
Just highlight it with the chevrons. Make sure you get the chevrons.
Yeah, you got to get the chevrons too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then do a test assemble and see what happens. And do click on document preview. Okay, so sometimes you get these messages from hot docs and it tells you there's an error and tells you where it is, but that's not really where the error is. So, because it's obviously not in that field, otherwise it would have given you the error when you selected that field. So it's somewhere before that.
I think I was messing around with this respondent names. I think it has something. So we're just going to delete that for now. See what happens.
Now it's saying field 18, position 4, which is the same field. So, do you have any? You created some computations?
I think this is it right here. I think I just had a stray colon that I didn't delete.
Ah.
Oh, yep, that's it. Found it.
Okay.
Straight. Okay. Go back for a second, Aaron. Just what did you do? You had a colon accidentally in a variable name.
Yes. What happened was I was messing with the respondent names, and I replaced this capitalized text up here, and I replaced it throughout instead of just right there. And so then I went through and just deleted the like this.
Oh, and left,
so it was,
and left the colon?
Like this.
Yeah.
To capitalize it, and I just went through and took that out. Probably not the most efficient way, just going through and deleting it, and I didn't. Yeah. I didn't delete one colon. So that's what threw it on.
Okay. Well, that was an excursion, but I think that's useful for other people who are watching in case you run into odd little problems. A couple things there, right? One is sometimes you will introduce an error somewhere, and hot docs will refuse to run and give you somewhat inscrutable messages, but they are solvable. And secondly, be careful about editing variable instances or fields if you don't know what you're doing for sure, because you might accidentally leave a colon like Aaron did, or introduce some characters, and hot docs will choke. So anyway, but this thing assembles now and works as far as you can tell, given these fixes.
So one question. I've never tried to put images in a hot docs template before, and this doesn't look at all like the image does that I downloaded. I don't know if that's normal, but so
it's not unusual to have, especially, okay. Yeah, images are suboptimal. You can generally get them to behave. They behave a little differently when this runs online inside of a browser mode, but it's not a full functional image processing tool. It's got limits, and we'll get into images I think in class 3 or 4 or 5. Maybe you covered a bit, Bart, in your class next week.
Yes. Yeah. And
class number 2.
It could be. What type of file is this?
That's a PNG, I believe.
PNG. Does it have transparency in it?
It might. I just pulled it from our website. I haven't really looked at it too closely.
That can cause problems.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly, but in the hot docs help, it does talk PNG images and transparency, and I don't remember exactly what it says, but it does alert you to the fact that there can be a problem.
Okay,
so
good to know.
Potential.
Okay, Aaron. Is there pleasant first state of homework?
No, it's pretty straightforward, good instructions, and I do have experience in doing this stuff, so other people might have problems than I did, but.
All right, let me jump around a bit. I'm going to ask for another volunteer. I think, Lori, you were willing to be put on the spot. If that's still the case, speak up. You're up, and I can make you present for a second.
Sure, I am willing to be put on the spot, although I think I am slightly behind here.
Okay,
So
well, you probably have company.
Yeah, well, I did my homework actually before the last one, which means that I actually haven't thought about it in a week, which is dangerous. So
Okay.
what I actually found was that I had a difficult time opening the right thing or trying to figure out what, I mean, really very basic, like what was I supposed to open first? So, but if I wanted to be editing, so I wasn't even sure if I had to come, here and then if I was supposed to be opening my CMP or my RTF, and I'd saved a couple of different things. I did ultimately open the RTF and got it here where I can actually look at the variables. So I think I'm in the right place now.
I think you are.
Okay.
I mean, just to answer that question, Lori, in general, Bart, feel free to jump in, but generally it's best to navigate from the hot docs library and just use the editing functions there. You can open the RTF file from the Windows Explorer, but that doesn't necessarily open the simultaneously. And so for hot docs experience, we recommend just accessing templates from the library.
So coming here,
bring
going
up the library,
to my...
and you come in there, and then click on the one you want, and click on the template you want.
And then
on
going
left.
From here.
Or from there, or from the left-hand side, Larry.
Yeah, select the template.
Click on the left.
You're right there. Yeah. No, cancel it. Cancel.
I think
let me close this. I've got it open right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just select. No, you don't want to double click on it. No, you just want to click on it once so it's selected, and then click Edit.
And there's an Edit button in the toolbar.
Oh.
That's kind of the canonical way to do it.
Okay, well, that's very basic, but I missed it, so thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're doing this. And you can also right-click on it, and you'll see a context-sensitive menu, which includes Edit template there. So that'll take you to the same place. But, and then once you're in the template, Lori, as you see, once you see the telltale chevrons and blue text and the hot docs ribbon bar, you're safely within hot docs edit land.
Right. Okay. And I can get to variables. So I think I, created the variables. Okay. One question I had that came up when I was doing it is I remember, when we created a variable that was going to repeat, we could do that replace all to replace that variable throughout the document. And I was wondering if there's a way to get back to that replace all option, because I noticed here we have petitioner's street address. But I didn't replace all, and petitioner's street address is down here as well. And I think that I could just, literally, cut and paste that variable myself manually. And although that messed up my formatting for some reason. Let me not highlight, see if that helps. Well, I don't know why that messes up my formatting. But I was also wondering, can I get back to the option if I just open that variable and replace all again? But I didn't see any way to get back to that option.
One quick answer, Lori, is if you went down to the place where you wanted to start the replace all again, like that 123 Main Street, you could just begin it from there. So highlight that as though it was the first time. And then to your variable field, you'll need to not create a new variable, but select an existing variable.
Oh, I see. So petitioner address street text.
And now you
and
got
then
replace,
I get the replace all.
Replace multiple. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one way to restart it if you didn't do all the replacing the first time that you wanted to. But you can safely cut and paste like you were about to do. I think you may just have included the paragraph return or something. In what you had highlighted initially, and so that's why it affected the paragraph formatting.
I see. And it's going to give me the option now to replace one, replace all. I'll go ahead and replace all. And now my formatting is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's helpful. I think I forgot that going back into that variable field, you have this drop down of what you had already created. So. Thank you. That's helpful.
So do you think your template
And then I don't remember if
assembles?
that's,
You're about to try.
I'm not sure.
It was the acid test, right? Does it throw any errors?
Right.
Now notice you're also getting no interview, no questions. Why would that be?
Is it because I don't have, well, I have a Jane Doe answer file, 0 unanswered questions. Oh, so it's giving me an option here to send.
Well, it's not noticing that whatever you asked it to test assembled didn't have any hot docs variables in it, so it doesn't know what to ask. So I think it's a similar thing to what Aaron experienced. I think
see.
I'm not sure, but so you can close this test interview to get back to your template you're editing.
Mm-hmm.
And see, yeah, you've
Should I
got
delete
you
the
highlighted.
highlighting?
You don't want anything highlighted because anything highlighted is what HotDocs understands you want it to assemble. So yeah.
And you had
Now, test
highlighted.
assembly,
You had highlighted the petitioner address TE, but not the chevrons. So you just highlighted the name of the variable within the chevrons. So as far as HotDocs is concerned, there's nothing for HotDocs to do.
I see. Okay.
So that's it's a reasonably common phenomenon. I think probably other people have run into it. That's why we're repeating this. You know, if you go to test assemble and nothing happens, that's one possible explanation. It's that you highlighted a space or a word or something that has no HotDocs stuff in it at all, and HotDocs goes, I can't do anything.
So
questions.
This is Diana.
Someone had a question.
And I think it's confusing that you are using the word highlighted instead of the word selected, because
selected, okay.
Highlighting to me is the yellow text that she deleted at the top of the interview. However, she had a variable selected, and that's why it didn't run. So the yellow color doesn't do anything.
Thank you for explaining that. Yes, I thought this was the problem, that the yellow text, the highlighting is the problem. So I must have had something was gray. You know, I had some gray selection when I tested. Exactly. That was my problem.
Yep,
that's why it's saying no, that doesn't work. Okay, so now I just need to have my cursor not selecting any text. This yellow highlight is irrelevant. It test assembles just fine.
Exactly. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
That's a good clarification.
Terms of art.
And for what it's worth, the ability to highlight, the ability to select part of your template when you do a test assemble ordinarily is a very useful feature, because often you want to test just part of a template. So you can select it and test the part, but if the part has nothing in it of interest to HotDocs, it's not going to be a very interesting interview. Right, so you could,
for example, I just select that. And that's what
you'll notice it'll ask any questions relevant to the area you've selected, and the document preview will be just that part of the document that you've also selected. That's a good way to
okay.
divide and
so
conquer.
I could just select, this line, and I'm only going to get now I'm only
just
getting
those variables that it needs. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, that's helpful to know.
All right. What else did you? I know you did this a week or so ago, Lori. But do you remember any other problems or surprises or confusions or?
No, I thought everything else was straightforward. Yeah.
So let's open it more generally. Anyone else go through these and run into the issues we've seen with Aaron or Lori or different ones? Anybody have any particular difficulties getting through this first class of homework?
I see that Aldo has a question in the question pane about some issue that he had, and looks like, I'm not sure, he might be muted. He's muted, but I'm not sure how. Okay.
I think unable to have a microphone. So.
Oh, okay. So
Aldo would need to describe it in the text field or do it separately. while we're waiting for that, if that happens during this call, anybody else run into trouble or particular enjoyment in doing this? Any breakthroughs? Any eureka moments so far about how this stuff works?
It does look like a few people are muted by organizer. I don't know if we should be. I can unmute them.
You can, if you want to raise your hand, if you want to signal you want to talk, we can unmute you if you are muted. And Bart, you have the same power as I do, I think, so you can
Yeah,
unmute.
I can shall I just unmute them? They can mute themselves. Do you want me to unmute people who are muted, who aren't?
If they want to say something.
Okay, yeah.
While we're doing this, I'm just going to take back presenter just to go through what we're coming up with for this coming week. Thank you, Lori, by the way. We appreciate being the center of attention. What we're going to ask you to do going forward is now you've done homework number 1. Those of you that are still catching up, you have to do that, but because you really can't proceed until you're on track with us. But there's now a recording of class number 2. If you go to the resource center, there's a video for class 2, which Bart has done. And I should say it gets a little thicker. You know, the plot thickens, it gets a little more complex, a lot more complex in class 2. So give yourself time to do that. There is a corresponding homework assignment for class 2, and this is also in that same folder. And you'll see it goes on a little more than you've seen in the first exercise. We get into conditions, we get into, I believe, dialogues, and gender pronouns, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's probably 2 or 3 times as much work as doing the first homework, if I'm guessing. But that's really what lies before you. Let me stop. So Aldo has got a comment in the questions. When I click on the text variable button on the word hot docs ribbon, I get an error message that hot docs cannot create the file. So that may have something to do with file privileges, Bart, right?
Yeah. Cannot create the file, but it did create the file because the template has been created. So that message doesn't really make sense to me.
So maybe we should just do a side
yeah.
Go to meeting with Aldo.
Yeah.
We can make that happen and figure out get to the bottom of any trouble you're having, because that's obviously a showstopper. You want to be able to create variables and edit templates. Other questions, comments, problems? Again, I'm just bringing up our syllabus here. If you look at the second week, which you're about to get into, I've marked up the syllabus that's online with minute and second markings corresponding to Bart's video. So if you watch it once and then when you're doing your homework have trouble dealing with a particular part, you can go back to the specific part in the video and rewatch it. But it's a lot more substantial than class 1. Class 3 then will get a little bit easier again, so you'll have a break. But class 2 is a bit of a heavy lift, so I encourage you to get ready for it. And I'm just holding off. We don't need to keep going for a full hour. Anybody who's got a question or comment, we welcome you either speaking up. If you need to be unmuted, raise your hand or let us know and we'll unmute you. If you want to just raise a question, you can do it through the question pane. We will repeat this kind of a informal class a week from today, which would be, or from yesterday, which would be next month. I'm sorry, a week from today, Tuesday the 11th, same time, same place. Miranda, Claudia, Bart, and I, and Jessica are available in between if you have any concerns or questions in the meantime. And really, don't hesitate. If you hit a stumbling block or an obstacle, let us know. We want to be sure you get past it, so you maintain your pace in the course.
Mark, this is Lori. Can I just ask you about in Hot Docs Developer, when I'm test assembling and there are kind of potential different answer files, I'm just not sure I understand the structure of what I'm really opening or not opening at that moment in time. And maybe this is just because it has been a week since I read this and I forgot. But I have, and I'm actually happy to show my screen again if that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm not seeing you in the meeting for some reason at the moment.
Oh.
Why would that
I wonder
be?
if I can request.
No, you're in there. You just got moved to a different place. Okay. Never mind. You're about to be made presenter. Yeah, this is good. This is a good question, Lori. This is exactly the kind of stuff we want to get on the table, because
it all made sense to me when I was doing it, when I was following the step-by-step instructions. But then this morning, 10 minutes before class, I'm like, okay, where did I save everything? I had a lot of trouble figuring out what to open first. So, it was helpful then, what we went through the first time I was presenting, that I can go here and I've opened, the Microsoft or the template in Word, and then I test assemble and I'm back here. And I have a Jane Doe answer file, and I can also do new answers or open answers. Yeah, and so at this stage of the game where I'm creating the interview, do I have multiple test answer files I can run with it? Because it's also not, it's not filling in Jane Doe here for me, even though I've selected that answer file.
Right, and that may be Jane Doe was an answer file you used with a different template that had different variables in it. So none of the variables in the template. Yeah, that's one possibility. And just be aware that when you do a test assemble, Hot Docs generally opens up the last answer file you had open. It kind of assumes you want to just reuse what you were using previously. So it's basically throwing this interview with its own variables against an answer set that you were previously using. And if there were any answers that had the same names, they would come through here. But that answer file probably doesn't have petitioner name first TE in it, for instance, right? None of those variables exist.
Right. I bet it was the PDF document that was the other, the other thing we worked on. That's probably what it was. Okay. So I could.
You could just
do a new answer file.
Create a new answer file, and then
and then go ahead and
then whatever you call this thing, if you save it, the Sally Smith answer file will be the next one by default that Hot Docs will open if you do a test assemble. Let me throw one thing at you, Lori.
Constantly saving, or I would save?
No, you have to save. You have to save.
Save answers,
right,
not save documents. What does save documents save?
Right.
That will save the
document that will be assembled. Yeah, that'll save whatever you would assemble it. Yep. Okay, so now you're going to save the answer file, give it a name.
Okay.
And if you were to close this interview now and go back to your template and start over, I hope it'll know enough to use Sally Smith as your base. Yeah.
Right, but I could choose Sally or Jane, but Jane actually doesn't correspond to any of my variables. Okay, that's actually helpful.
Not at the moment. Yep.
And then saving document saves what I would assemble if I finished the interview. I haven't tried finishing the interview.
Yes.
Oh, because I have unanswered
Okay, let's see what happens. You can still assemble with whatever answers you've given.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you would press that save document button, it would take this file, it would assemble it and save it, I think, behind the scenes. I don't know if
I don't recommend people use that saved document very much because it saves it kind of in a hidden location. You know, you'd have to go find it. And it sort of duplicates assembling the document and sending it to Word. So what I recommend is just.
But it doesn't actually open it. So
it
you
doesn't
don't
open
see it
it
through
exactly. You don't see it exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
There are implementations where people are using hot docs in such a way that they do want to save the document separately and not actually send it to Word. So that's why that functionality is there, but it's mostly useless for, you know, template developers.
Okay. And I have no need to save that. So I guess I was thinking of assemble in some ways. So this is my template here with the Word document, and when I'm assembling, I'm actually going to the interview.
You're running the
so
template,
what I'm
which
doing
requires
is
an interview.
assembling. I'm running the template. Yeah, I think part of this is another terminology term, like the highlight and select, where to me, assemble is what happens when I hit finish, and I'm actually merging my my answers with my template to assemble the finished product. So I think that's where the whole assemble, it just threw me off what I was actually doing by hitting test assemble.
Exactly. Yeah. And Bart and I have been doing this for so many years, all this stuff is lost on us, but I can understand why that's confusing. Of course, you get the document preview. Bart, sorry.
I was going to say, there's test assemble is just a variation of assemble. Because you are, when you do a test assembly, if you complete the test assembly, you're actually sending it to Word, but there's also an assemble where you can run it from the library and assemble it. So that's why we talk about test assemble versus assemble. And test assemble has other aspects to it, you know, other features to it, like being able to do the document preview. Well, actually, you can always do the document preview, but there are other things you can do in a test assembly you can't do in a regular assembly. So, but they're two sides of the same coin, basically.
But any kind of assembly requires an interview ordinarily. That just kind of comes with assembly in hot docs world. In order to assemble something, you have to answer questions, and to answer questions, you need to see the interview.
Right. I see. Okay.
Let me show you one thing, Lori, just maybe to wrap up today, unless you have other questions.
Yeah.
That list of states you've got a long, when you're doing, in the interview, that list of states is all a long list of radio buttons, and a little bit awkward for the user. How would you change that to make it a drop down?
Ooh. Look at the instructions.
Because
I think I have to go
I'll help
back
you along,
to the variable, right?
Okay, but you don't need to go
back.
Let me just answer that for a second, because this is one of those features that comes with test assemble. If you right click on, say, Alabama right there, you can edit the component right from here. So Hot Docs lets you come here and change its properties. There you go. Now click OK, and now that state list is now a handy little drop down. So this is a common configuration I think most developers get into when they're working. Is you have a template open for editing like you do. You do a test assemble to see how it's behaving in terms of assembly mode, and then if you see things you want to change, you can launch the underlying here. So if you wanted to change a prompt or change a behavior, just right click and edit component. And as you'll see in later exercises, you can edit dialogues and other aspects of an interview. So that's it. And then you make a change, and immediately it's operative in most cases in the experience.
How do you change the title?
Go ahead.
How do you change the title?
Where did that come from?
That shows up in it.
Yeah.
It seems to have created. It's just started, picked the first one and added, etc. Because I don't recall typing that in.
You didn't type it in. That's kind of a default behavior in Hot Docs now, that when you have variables that are not organized in the dialogues, which come in class 2, hot docs will put them into dialogues for you and give that kind of a name. I don't know if you can edit that, Bart. Can you? I think that's just kind of, you're just kind of stuck with that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if you use the default dialog where it puts all the variables in one dialog, I don't think you can edit I don't think you can get rid of the etc.
Right.
Mm.
But that'll soon be fixed because you're going to break these into true dialogues in the next module, and that'll go away. And those dialogues you can control entirely what you want to call them.
Great.
That was good. Anything else, Lori, that hits you while you were here on the screen? Just feeling comfortable where you are, you know, understanding what's in front of you, right? You're running an assembly with Jazz Interview in front of it. You've got the template still sitting in the background. You can kind of toggle back and forth between them and change things, and they'll update.
Right.
You can preview your document
I
at any
can
point to see if it's working.
how my variables are looking in there.
Mm-hmm. Change answer files, create new ones.
Is this send to word processor? Is that essentially the finish button? The same, I mean, doesn't it do the same thing? It sends it to the word processor?
I think finish will just take you to the last. Well, I'm not sure. Press finish. I think it is the same thing in this situation. Yeah. In this case, it's all right. Give me the document and save my answers, or at least give you the chance to save. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you said send to word processor, it would create the document without exiting the interview. So sometimes you want to do that just to say, you know, give me the document as it exists now, but don't close my interview. I like to keep playing with this.
Right, because now I'm struggling with getting back to the interview, but I have to do test assemble again from my format. Okay,
right.
And this would just send to document.
Right.
But I'm still here. I have both.
Yeah.
So I've frozen this moment in time, and I can go on and do something else.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
That
sometimes you get a bunch of things going on simultaneously, and probably the few windows you have open unnecessarily is the better, I find, to minimize distractions.
I believe
Let me ask
that.
other folks. I'm just going to check the question pane. We see somebody had a problem that was fixed. Never mind. That's always good to hear. Anybody else have anything they want to say or ask while we're here together? And also, can I get a volunteer or two for what Aaron and Lori did today? Sort of allow yourself to be showing your work and be our guinea pig as we go through asking questions and looking over someone's shoulders. If I haven't scared you off by my concerns about lesson 2. Diana, are you willing? Perhaps I'll just put people on the spot. You're self-muted, but if you're still listening and you're willing to be a volunteer next week, say yes or no. Or LaDeirdre or Nicole, anybody else, or Paige, I see you're unmuted. Are you willing to catch up and
I'd be willing to.
This
is Paige. I'd be willing to.
Okay, all right, good. I have one volunteer. It's always good to have two. Is there someone else who's willing to be audible and visible? Hopefully it's not too unpleasant an experience.
It's not that bad.
Valencia, are you willing? It looks like you're raising your hand.
Yep, I'll volunteer next week.
Okay, good enough. Well, let's not prolong this. Paige and Valencia, we'll ask you guys to at least be prepared to show what you're up to with homework number 2. Thank you, Lori, again. Thank you, Aaron. Anyone else have a last minute question, comment? Miranda, anything else from you? If not, or Bart, anybody else want to say anything?
Nothing here, thanks.
I'm all set.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Go forth and prosper and enjoy lesson number 2.